Hey, what is going on, American government class? Welcome back. It's Friday, November 6th, 2020, and what a week it has been. Probably a crazier week than we have today. Let's try to take it a little bit easy on this Friday, huh? Looks like we got a few things on the schedule, but really not that many when we break it down. We're going to talk about this historic week a little bit and the work you guys have done. We got to do a little bit of a Unit 2 review, everything that we've gone over this unit to kind of get your head back in the game here. Then we're going to talk about the structure of the Constitution today. We're going to talk about what it looks like, how it's built, things that you will definitely need to know. Very important stuff. Then, it's Friday, so we got a weekly review quiz. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I'm not sorry. It's Friday. Got to have a quiz. So pay attention during this review. Mucho importante. Mis estudiantes. Very important for my students. After that, I'm going to hit you with the assignment and the attendance question, and we'll get you on your way. So, first and foremost, let's talk about this huge, historic election week. It has been a crazy week. It has been a crazy month. For all intents and purposes, it has been a crazy year. Really, since March. Really, it's been a crazy past few years when you think about everything that's been going on. So I wanted to let you guys know that, especially now, especially in this time where we're doing distance learning, some of you are taking on jobs during the day, going to classes and watching your videos and doing your lessons at night. I just want to let you guys know that in this crazy year, you have done a phenomenal job, all right? Sure, we've had our hiccups. I've had mine. We've missed some classes. Maybe you didn't do so well on an assignment or a quiz or a test here or there. But overall, I just want to let you guys know you're crushing it, man and lady. Men and ladies, you're crushing it. You're doing such a good job. We talked about Election Day earlier this week, and we will study it later on in December, and actually a little bit earlier next semester when we talk about the executive branch. But you guys crushed it on your notes. You crushed it on the work that I gave you. You crushed it on your kind of recap of Election Day. All the things you guys did, you did an amazing job. So great job on election week. It is said and done. Hopefully we can move on and, get to an end of this election cycle, if you will. Unit 2 review. Figure we got to go over everything. It's been a minute. It's been a hot minute since we have talked about anything Constitution related. So let's go ahead, get your notes out, everything that we've done so far, and let's hit up this 5-minute review, which might be a little bit longer, and kind of get back into the swing of American government.
All right, 5-minute review time. Let's go. Number 1, what was the United States' first Constitution called? Move quick, move quick. The Articles of Confederation. Number 2, why didn't they work? Y'all know this one. They were weak, like Mr. Finn. Number 3, give me 5 weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. This is a tough one. Give me 5. We got that they couldn't tax, couldn't enforce the law. They needed 9 states to pass a law. Congress could not regulate trade, and there was no changing or amending the Articles of Confederation unless all 13 states agreed. Moving on, why was the requirement of 9 out of 13 states being present to pass a law such a big problem? Sometimes 9 states wouldn't even show up. What does the word amend mean? Ooh, this will be on a vocab quiz soon. To change or add to. What was the flashpoint or the event that led to Alexander Hamilton and other founding fathers calling for another convention in Philadelphia? Shays' Rebellion. What was the only purpose of that Philadelphia convention? They were only going there for one thing. They wanted to revise or fix the Articles of Confederation. What did they do in Philadelphia instead? They didn't fix them. They didn't kind of revise them at all. They created an entirely new constitution. Who is considered to be the father of that Constitution, the Constitution we still have today, because he took such meticulous notes from all of the people who gave speeches? James Madison. What were the three characteristics of the delegates at the Constitutional Convention? What did they all have in common? They were old, they were white, and they were all men. Which plan was for the large states and gave votes to states based on the state's population? Remember, think of this as the plan for the big states. The Virginia plan. Virginia plan because they had more people at the time. They had a larger population. Which plan was for the smaller states and gave equal votes to all the states, regardless of the population? So whether you had 1,000 people or 100,000 people, the states would get the same amount of votes. The New Jersey plan. What was the name of the compromise that took pieces from both of those two plans called? You got two choices here. Either the Connecticut Compromise or the Great Compromise. What was the name of the compromise that counted slaves as 3/5 of a person? Man, I'm just giving you that answer in the question. We know it. The 3/5 Compromise. But a little bit tougher of a question. For what two reasons were slaves counted as 3/5 of a person? Taxes and population. The southern states would get to count them towards their population, but would also have to pay money for them. When was the Constitution signed? September 17th, 1787. What was the name of the group of people who were against ratifying the new Constitution? Remember, ratify means to approve. These people were against it. They were so anti the Constitution. The Anti-Federalists. What was the name of the group of people who were in favor of ratifying or approving this new Constitution? Simple. The Federalists. Name one Federalist and one Anti-Federalist. Well, we know a Federalist would probably be somebody who was supporting the Constitution, and an Anti-Federalist was against it. People who supported it, obviously James Madison, he's the father of the Constitution. Alexander Hamilton, he called for that new convention in Philadelphia. And Washington, amongst others, were Federalists. Anti-Federalists would be Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, and Sam Adams, who were always about the people's rights. What was the main reason the anti-Feds were against ratifying the new Constitution? I just said it. It didn't have something for the people's rights. It didn't have a Bill of Rights. And remember, a Bill of Rights is rights for the people, for individuals. What was the name of the series of essays that the Federalists wrote to try to convince the public that the new Constitution was a good idea? Remember, this was 85 essays. Whew! The Federalist Papers. Who are the three authors of the Federalist Papers? Well, obviously, again, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, who we will have some fun with next week, and a guy named John Jay, who is not the current radio show host in the morning when you listen to KISS FM. He was a founding father, and he was an author of the Federalist Papers. Who made a promise to add a Bill of Rights to the Constitution so that people would agree to ratify it? El Padre himself, James Madison. Where can we find the Bill of Rights in our current Constitution right now? This is a tough one, but it's really easy. We just haven't really gotten there. Our Bill of Rights is located in the first 10 amendments. We're going to talk about those a little bit more today and next class. All right, that is it. Let's get to work.
Any of that starting to stick into your head up there? Did it sound a little familiar? I hope so. All right. With the review done, let's go ahead and move on to the structure of the Constitution. Now, if you've noticed behind me, we're going to do some Cornell notes today. What does that mean? Well, first it means you're going to need a piece of paper and a pencil. So go ahead, if you need to, hit the pause button. We'll be right here when you get back. All right. with your piece of paper and your pencil, we're going to go ahead and we're going to title the top of our page, Structure of the Constitution, just like so. And then we're going to draw a line down underneath that, not halfway down, not in the middle of the page, but just a little bit over from that little red line. We're going to give ourselves a little bit more room to write. We'll go ahead, we'll zoom in here for you. And we're going to be writing a few things in this area and then a lot more in this area. So, go ahead, get your paper like that. Take a few seconds. And while you do that, I'm going to explain to you what I mean by the structure of the Constitution. When we hear the word structure, what do you think of? I think of building, something being put together. Look at that structure. Kind of what we're talking about today. What if I said, tell me about the structure of Mr. Weckbaugh? You'd obviously say, well, hey, he's got some really big feet at the bottom, then some long legs. He is stacked as far as muscular in the chest and arms go, just ripping muscles. Then he's got this a beautiful head on the top with maybe not so much hair on the top, but a little bit of hair on the sides and in the front, on the bottom of the chin. That's the structure of Mr. Weckbaugh. Now, we're going to kind of be talking about the structure of the Constitution in a similar way. I'm going to tell you how it's made up, how it's put together. We've talked about the Constitution. We talked about it being ratified. We talked about the debate of whether or not it should be. We talked about how it was created and how that was a miracle. Today we're going to talk about if we went to take a field trip to look at the Constitution itself, the actual Constitution, what would it look like? How's it made up? And we're not going to be describing it like, oh, it's on white piece of paper. It's, a little bit worn and you can't see that. We're going to talk about how it's made up as far as what goes where, how many different parts are there, things like that. So hopefully we've got our Cornell notes ready. And the first thing, like I said, over here, we are going to start off with the 3 parts of the Constitution. That's right, this huge document, this amazing document that we've been talking about this whole unit, only has 3 parts. Now, what are those 3 parts? I'm glad you asked. Let's go ahead and put a 1 right here. The first part of the Constitution is similar to the first part of the Declaration of Independence. It's a vocab word that kind of means introduction or statement of purpose. Maybe some of this is ringing a bell in your mind. Just like the Declaration of Independence, there is a Anybody say amble? I don't know. I couldn't hear you. I'm on the other side of the computer. It doesn't work like that. But preamble is the correct answer. Hopefully that's what you came up with. The preamble. All right? We're going to talk about that in a second. We'll talk about each of these 3 parts. But the first part is the preamble. Think of that like an introduction. The second part, we'll put a 2 right here, excuse me, is something we call the Articles. Not the Articles of Confederation. Remember, that was our first Constitution. That was whack. If this was the Articles of Confederation, they did that, threw it away, right? They said, nope, we don't want that. We need a new Constitution. Articles is kind of referring to, let's say, the chapters. All right? If this is a rule book, the articles are the chapters. And how many chapters is this book? 7 chapters long. There are 7 articles of the Constitution. Completely different from the Articles of Confederation. Not the same thing at all. Articles is actually a vocab word that you should know. Think about that. The third part of the Constitution is very simply put the amendments. If you recall from last week, amendment means an addition or a change. And the Constitution of the United States has been changed or added on to 27 total times. So there are 27 amendments. It is very hard to amend the Constitution. We'll talk about that later in this unit when we talk about amending the Constitution, but in the 200 plus years since it's existed, it's only been amended 27 times. So not a lot. That just shows you how hard it is. Right there, that's it. That's all we have to say for our first part of our Cornell notes. There's 3 parts of the Constitution. And a good way to remember this is I like to think about this like an essay, all right? In an essay, you have your introductory paragraph, right? Then you have the main body of it, the chapters or your 3 main paragraphs. And then at the end, you have your closing. The amendments are the closing. It's the end. Maybe another way to think about this is just simply like a book, right? You have your introductory, maybe your intro to the book. You read your 7 chapters, the articles, and then you have citations or things that were added on to the book at the end. Those last few pages that nobody ever takes a look at. Those would be your amendments. Except in this case, our amendments are very important and people take a look at them all the time. Next, we're just going to talk about these 3 parts, all right? Let's go ahead and talk now about the preamble.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to show you the entire preamble and read it along with you. So the Constitution starts off with these words: "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." This is it. This is the preamble.
All right, now that you've heard the preamble in its entirety, let's go ahead and dissect that a little bit, shall we? First of all, let's go ahead and skip a line and write the word preamble on the left-hand side of your notes. And on the right-hand side, what is the preamble? Well, as we said, it is the introduction, or if you prefer, the statement of purpose. And I think we can all agree the preamble seemed a little bit long, maybe a little bit longer than we expected, and that's because the statement of purpose was not a statement of one single purpose. There were 6 purposes that we just read, that we just heard on that last slide. And basically, those 6 purposes were all aimed at fixing the weaknesses underneath the Articles of Confederation. If you recall, the Articles were very, very weak, like someone we know. Very weak, and we wanted to fix those weaknesses. So these 6 goals that we just read were all aimed at fixing those weaknesses. I'll explain in a second. Back to the preamble. Who can recall the first 3 words? Anybody? The first 3 words of the Constitution are, I'm sure somebody said it, we the people. It goes on. But as we know, we the people is very important. But it's very important for a few reasons. First, it totally embodies the idea of democracy, government by the people. Second, it totally embodies popular sovereignty. One of the concepts, one of the ideas we've talked about in this class, popular sovereignty. Who can remember what that means? Popular means people like you. Sovereignty is to have control or rule. Popular sovereignty means control or rule by the people. So who is running this government? We the people. It's a government of the people, for the people, by the people. And the founders choose these 3 words. They say, we the people, not we the 55 white guys. Because if you recall from our delegates' characteristics, they were all white men. And they're creating a rule book for an entire country. But a country that considers itself a melting pot, that has people coming in from every other country with different backgrounds, different heritages, different ethnicities, different religious beliefs. And we say, we the people. Perhaps it would have been a little bit more accurate if they said, we the 55 white guys. Now, for those 6 goals that we talked about, the first goal of the preamble was to form a more perfect union. And what does this mean? Again, we go back to the Articles of Confederation. Underneath the Articles of Confederation, the 13 states were kind of doing their own thing. There was no national unity. They weren't all one. A union is when people come together, right? When you think about a marriage, it's a union of 2 people. A more perfect union, and I don't know why there's an S there, excuse that S. To form a more perfect union was one of the main goals. There was no national unity underneath the Articles of Confederation. So the founders wanted to fix that and make the 13 states more together. Not just 13 separate entities, but their own singular union. The second goal of the preamble was to establish justice. Again, another weakness underneath the Articles of Confederation was there were no national courts. There was no national court underneath the Articles. And we look to a court to get justice, right? That's where we see justice in a courtroom. Courtrooms deliver justice. And if there are no national courts, there can be no justice that is established across the country. This was a weakness under the Articles, so they wanted to fix it and establish justice underneath this new Constitution. The third goal is to ensure domestic tranquility. Holy moly. What does ensure domestic tranquility mean? Well, to ensure means to, make sure. Domestic, if you're catching a domestic flight, that means you're catching a flight within the country you're in. So it means here, within your country. And tranquility, maybe you've heard the word tranquil, where, I need some nice, soothing, tranquil sounds to put me to sleep and relax. It's basically what it is. It's peace. It's being able to relax and feel secure. So to ensure peace for the people of this country. Remember, underneath the Articles of Confederation, there wasn't a lot of peace. In fact, there were riots and unrest that plagued the entire nation. There was rebellions. Specifically, there was Shays' Rebellion. That's right. All of these people were kind of up in arms and rioting because they were not happy about what was going on underneath the Articles of Confederation. So we say ensure domestic tranquility was a goal to fix all of those riots underneath the Articles. The fourth goal of the 6 is to provide for the common defense. Now, if you're defending yourself, what are you doing? You're making sure you're safe. You're protecting yourself. The government here includes this in the preamble, the founders, because they want to provide a defense for everyone, the common people. If something's common, a lot of people have it. They wanted to provide for the common defense. Give everybody in the country a defense. There was no national army underneath the Articles of Confederation. Remember that? All they could do was say, hey, can we get some troops from you? To each state. And the states didn't even have to say yes. They could be like, ha, nah, man, we cool. Nobody here wants to fight. So there was no national army. If there's no national army, you are not very well protected. So to provide for the common defense simply means they wanted to make sure that the nation wasn't vulnerable to outside attacks like it was underneath the Articles of Confederation. Number 5 is to promote the general welfare. Now, again, my goodness, what does this mean? Well, if you promote something, that means you're for it. You're trying to make sure that people know about it and that people get it. General is kind of similar to common, meaning everybody, generally. And welfare, maybe that's a word you've heard when talking about money. People get welfare from the government. What does that mean? We've heard this. What does that mean? Welfare is kind of the government's way of saying, hey, you've fallen on tough times. Let's help you up. Let's give you a little bit of money, or let's give you some groceries so that we can make you have better welfare. Does that ring any bells? Welfare for the more common, the general people. This was a goal. They wanted the people of the United States to have a decent living. They wanted to make sure that they had money, or maybe if they didn't have money, they had a good business. Again, underneath the Articles of Confederation, a weakness was people were losing their farms. People didn't have a lot of money. It was a terrible economy. When we talk about economy, we talk about how the country's doing as far as having money. The people did not have a lot of money, or they were losing their farms. They were losing all these different things underneath the Articles. So the government wanted to promote the general welfare. Make sure all the people of the country were doing well. And finally, the 6th goal of the preamble is to secure the blessings of liberty. They wanted to secure the blessings of liberty. Now, what does that mean? Well, underneath the Articles of Confederation, there were no assurances of enduring freedoms, meaning nobody was guaranteed specific freedoms. And this was a very specific thing that the Anti-Federalists fought for, if you recall from our great debate. People wanted a Bill of Rights. They wanted freedoms that would endure, that would last forever. Not just a few freedoms for the government and how the government should be run, but they wanted rules and protections for the people of the country. Ergo, a Bill of Rights. One of the weaknesses underneath the Articles of Confederation. So these were our 6 goals of the preamble. They wanted to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for the people of this country. Now, we are going to stop there for today as far as our notes go, our Cornell notes, but save them, all right? This is why I wanted you to have them written out on a piece of paper with a pencil, because we're going to need these for next class. Next class, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the 7 different articles and what each chapter is about. And then we're going to talk about the amendments, the things added on to the Constitution after it was already created. But for now, we know the 3 different parts. We know the preamble and why it's trying to fix the Articles of Confederation, what it says specifically. So I think we're at a good point to stop. What do we have next? Woo! Uh-oh. Weekly review quiz time. You might want to go ahead, get out a piece of paper and a pencil, because it's quiz time, baby. All right, y'all. Boards erased. Ready for the weekly review quiz? I know I am. Are you? No? Well, then tell you what. Let's not do it this week, huh? Yeah. It's been a long week. It's been election week. There's been a lot going on in government. Let's axe that quiz for this week. Now, I'm going to make an announcement here. This is very important. You're going to need to know this later. For that puppy right there.
I'm not giving you a weekly review quiz today, but next week, if you recall, a few weeks back I said we'd be having a vocabulary quiz. So you will be having a vocab quiz next week, all right? We got a weird week going on next week. We have a day off on Wednesday for Veterans Day, meaning I believe we'll end up having class Friday again. Either way, whether we do or we don't, whether it's on Thursday or Friday, the last class of next week, you're going to have a vocabulary quiz. So that first thing we did this unit, all those words on that sheet of paper I sent you that you were supposed to get definitions for, we're going to have a quiz on those words, okay? We may have another weekly review quiz as well, but definitely having a vocab quiz. No weekly review quiz today, all right? You're welcome.
Hey, how about that? No quiz this week, but do not forget, next week you will certainly have a quiz, maybe two, but one will definitely be on that vocab. Now, for today's assignment, it's been a long week. Let's go ahead and take it easy on you a little bit. For your assignment today, I simply want you to take a picture of the notes we took today, your structure of the Constitution notes. Take a picture and send that puppy to me, all right? Your attendance question is going to be, what kind of quiz are you having next week? That's how I know you watched the video. Tell me what kind of quiz we are definitely having next week as your attendance question. Give me that answer immediately as soon as this video ends. Send it to me and then get to work. I guess you don't even have to get to work. Take a picture. Send me the notes. It can all be in the same email. I don't care. Give me the work. Give me the attendance question of what kind of quiz we are having next week for sure. And that's it. Hope you guys have a great weekend. You had a great week, a long week. Go relax, enjoy it. Hey, no school next Wednesday either. How about them apples, huh? You guys have a great day. We'll see you next class.